Can you hear me?
I can hear you. How are you this evening?
I'm good. I was trying to call you back. I was like, why we got all these people on here? We had that was just one of the aldermen called me saying that, she needed her publicist to prep her. I'm like, I told you it was relax. You didn't need all of that. But oh well, I told her go on
Mm,
Facebook and see how the show is. But Alderman well, uh Pastor, I sent you the information. Did you read it?
I did. Oh no, I didn't read it. So let me just tell you that.
Okay. Yeah, well,
I
there you
did
have it.
see it, but I didn't read everything. Um,
There's no everything. When I send it to you, I expect you to reach out and thank them for coming on the show.
oh,
That's
well,
why I
normally,
put you in there. When I send it to you, I need you to do that.
okay, we thank you. We are live. Um, and thank you for that. So yeah, but I did not have an opportunity to read it, but I was just because I didn't know who was coming and I was kind of throughout the day, I was just working. And but yeah, I agree. I should have just taken the time to look at it. We got 1 minute prior to the show beginning, and we are live actually on YouTube as well as here on the Zoom. So I'm just finishing up a couple of the last little bit of things to make certain that people can find us on YouTube, on Facebook, and right here on Zoom. So it would be nice if they show up, but I mean one or two folks. I hope they come, but I mean the show goes on. We're going to be talking about a few things, and they're all election related because right now we're going through challenges all over Cook County. As you may know, the local municipal races are underway. Many people who are candidates are going through their own objections, myself included.
All right, beautiful.
Is going through my objection, which you know what, I've gotten to the point right now where, listen, I've been challenged so many times over the years that I don't get me wrong, it's always weird to be challenged, but I'm almost like whatever, right? These election races these local municipal races are interesting because I don't think many people even fully understand the process, right? And the process in many cases, and I had to find this out, Trustee Matt, is that and I thought about this, my concerns with objections, period, isn't necessarily the objection. So put that for the record, okay? And have you ever been objected to? Have you ever had to go through your own objection?
No, I've never been challenged.
So I've never, so the issue with most objections, in my humble opinion, the issue that I think most candidates have to objections isn't the objection, it's the process of the objection. If you're just joining, we're going to talk more about that because really right now that's going on, and we got a couple other housekeeping things that we have to take care of in terms of water bills. The water bills, I don't know what's going on in the water bills in Olympia Fields, and in Chicago and some of these other places, but the water bills, there needs to be some sort of formal regulations on these water bills. It's like they make up these rates as they go. But in any event, Happy New Year to everyone that is joining. Welcome to Tea and Conversation. This is my first show back since last year. So I am, last week we did not have a show because that week was kind of that week where, the kids were out of school, so I kind of took the break, And Cassandra, I know you don't have any kids still in school, but I think I shared with you, I don't think that there should be any school. I don't think that there should be any school after Thanksgiving. I think they should just let the kids be out from Thanksgiving all the way to January 15th. What do you think of that?
So I think schools should be held all year round with breaks in between. You're absolutely right. Between Thanksgiving and the New Year, I think kids should be out of school, but we're going to school all year round. We're not out June, July, and August. So
Yeah,
we
I mean,
have breaks in
listen,
between.
they're not doing anything, and I'm just, I know my sons are in the background, probably like, "Dad, well, here goes Dad. Here you go." But the reality is, okay, I don't even know why they were out of school last week. I'm just gonna throw that out. If you got kids, you probably understand what I'm saying. But last week, the New Year Day was on the first. I figured by Wednesday they should be back in class. Hell, they had a whole nother week, and I don't even know why, right? But I'm just saying after looking at them, like why don't we just close the schools down from January, from Thanksgiving, and just make the kids come back January 15th, right after Thanksgiving. That way the schools can have a break and clean up the buildings, yada, 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 and so on and so forth. In any event, welcome to Monday's TN Conversation with Trustee Adam Winston. If you are a candidate, guys, please ping me so that I can at least know who I'm talking to if I'm going to be introducing you. Understand that we are not only here on Zoom. You may only see 3-4 people on the Zoom conference. However, there are people on the YouTube channel, and there are also people on the Facebook channel. So you just keep in mind that it is being streamed on multiple platforms. So some people may be asking you questions, but in order for me to introduce you, please introduce yourself to me and the chat link so that I know who you are, so I know how to formally introduce you. But I am excited again about this will be my third run for trustee in the Village of Glenwood in April's election. I'm not necessarily worried about the challenge the objection that's being cast upon me. I'm not worried about that because I've been doing this like way too long. But the one thing, Cassandra, that I was talking about and that I wanted to go in iPhone, you only say iPhone. Hopefully, welcome to the show. I don't know your name, so if you're a candidate, don't hesitate to let me know who you are. But the one thing that I have an issue with the objections is not the objection. And if you're a candidate, you can chime in here. It's really the process of these particular objections. Generally, the board that hears the objection is also it's like the fox being the executioner in the jury as to why if you're going to be eaten or not. Candidate Andre Smith, welcome to TN Conversation. Do not be a stranger. You can join in here because we're going to be getting you in. I want you to be able to introduce yourself and so on and so forth. But all of these topics, the way we do on Monday's TN Conversation is it's a casual conversation, and it allows candidates to kind of take off of that candidate hat and just talk to the people that are actually looking at the show. So don't hesitate to jump in. But what are your thoughts, on that? Is it the objection that really annoys people, or is it the process? And my thoughts are the process of the objection or the objectorial process, to me, needs to be overhauled. What do you think? What is your thoughts on this?
Personally, I think that everybody should have an opportunity to run. I think the public, the residents, the constituents should have an opportunity to see who is the next candidate that should represent them. And by us knocking them off the ballot, not giving them an opportunity to have a voice, is shortchanging the residents. I think it's unfair that they don't have the people there to exactly say what it is that they can do to make their lives better.
But in fairness, shouldn't there be so I can understand, right? I can understand that everybody should have a chance to run, but I guess, Cassandra, Trustee Matz, shouldn't there be a process, right? And I appreciate that there should be a process. For instance, and so I'm going to go there. Okay, I'm going to go there. In the community that I lived in, and Andre, I don't know what community you're from. You're from the 20th ward, so Chicago's a little bit different. Okay, but in the suburbs here, we have actually Chicago. You don't even run as the Democrats. You run as nonpartisan. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's only for aldermen. If you're running for mayor or alderman, it's a nonpartisan race.
Okay, so mayor and alderman is always nonpartisan. So you guys don't necessarily go through the same thing as we do. So before we get into the conversation, Andre, why don't we start off, because you are a candidate. So I want us to get into the conversation, but I don't want people to understand or misunderstand who you are. So Andre, why don't you start off by telling us who you are?
All right, my name is Andre Smith. I live in Washington Park. I was born in Woodlawn. Both of those are reside in the 20th Ward. I had 4 businesses out of 7 businesses in the 20th Ward, and I'm a long, I'm a long resident in the 20th Ward. It's done a lot of service.
Okay. So Andre, are you current? So okay, so you're currently not a trustee. You're trying to become one.
I'm in the process of becoming a alderman.
Okay, is this
alderman and a trustee is similar?
Yes, they are very similar. I mean, aldermen, you kind of have respective areas. See, I'm at large, right? So I really and we're a strong mayor board type of government where you guys are city manager board type of government. So there are some differences that you guys as an alderman have a lot more juice than I do as a trustee. But that's because of the makeup, of the, how the city is actually being ran. So right now you're running for the 20th ward, right? So I'm going into the notes that you're running for the 20th ward. That election is probably going to be a primary. Is that going to be a primary in February, or is that?
Yeah, it's primary. It's in February the 28th, and then there'll be a runoff after that.
And how many people are you? Do you have anybody that you're running against, or you're?
Well, it's two other candidates that running against.
Okay, and so what do you feel like your ward needs?
Well, universal is crime. That's throughout the city, the county. Also, property owners such as myself and other people, taxes have doubled and tripled. Which, is a burden for the taxpayers. And in the 20th ward, we're fighting the issue of transparency. And now we're dealing with the Wadsworth School with the immigrants being moved into the school.
Okay, so immigrants are being moved into. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, most people have seen, whether on the radio, on the news, or in the newspaper, on the radio, within the last 2 weeks that, or the last, several months, that the alderman claimed that she had no knowledge of the migrants, that the 500 migrants that was going to be put into Wadsworth School. So, that had been a big issue. The community, is fighting against that. I'm fighting against it. And things in that nature.
Okay, so the alderman, the current alderman does this person, and I don't even know who this in that ward. Does this person have the ability to say no?
Well, you got to remember this. Just like trustees, the commanding chief of the city is the mayor, Lori Lightfoot. The commanding chief officer of every ward is the commanding chief officer of every ward is the local alderman. You have 50 of them. They are responsible for getting information, bringing it back to the community, going voting and creating legislation, which, we have not had. So our alderman, she decided to, which a lot of people saw on TV, the radio, and in the newspaper, she decided to have a duel or a fist match with the mayor. Now, anyone know that been in business or that works a job or the owner, because that means that, of course, they're not going to communicate with you no more. Things are not going to work well no more. And then you're probably not even going to be on the job that much longer. So, right. So when she claimed that I didn't know that the migrants was going to be moved into Wadsworth. Well, if you wasn't so busy fighting the mayor, we didn't send you to city council to get into a fight. We sent you to bring back resources.
Right.
And that's the issue. And I'm just the kind of person, I believe that truth can be found at any given time. And I'm just sick and tired of our politicians lying to the people and not being transparent. people in the senior building, they say they text the alderman almost a year ago. They said they went up to her office and told her about this almost a year ago. She was on Perry Small's show 4 months ago saying she didn't know about it. She about 2.5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we had the first public hearing. She stated she didn't know about it. So which one of those times are you going to admit that you actually knew about it? Did you know about it 4 months ago on Perry Small's show? Did you know about it when the seniors came to your office or when they text you? You know, when did you know about it? And when you knew about it, what did you do about it? So the first public hearing that we had was about 3 weeks ago. That's when it blew up all in the news and media and stuff like that. The only thing I say is that I'm tired of people playing politics, you know, with people's lives. And I'm tired of people lying to the community and no transparency.
Yeah, it seems like, you know what, but that seems to be the case. And I just feel like, you know, the whole process of the political, when I got into this political arena, honestly, I got into it because I honestly felt that I could make some differences in my community and so on and so forth. And you know what? Let me just tell you, Mr. Smith, that I still think I can make some differences, but I'm no longer naive, right? I'm at a point now where I know that in order to make some differences, there are going to have to be some concessions on my part. I know that I'm going to have to play some of the games in order to get some of the headway and so on and so forth. But it's gotten to a point now where I just, going back to what we were talking about earlier, that I don't know any better system currently, okay? I think that our system, our way of doing government is one of the best. But I think that the application of many of our systems, how people are applying it, that's the problem. How do we get the way some of these systems are applied, or some of these laws, some of these ordinances, some of these things, how do we change how the application of some of these processes? Is it just being a champion for some of these different ordinances that make sense? Is it, now we're gonna have to rub elbows with the whole entire board to try to get the majority vote? How do we bring attention that the whole process just needs to be re-examined? Maybe I'm not going to say thrown out, but how do we get to that point where the application of how we go about the government's business just needs to be re-examined? What do we do? Because if we just going to stay in these seats, we get them, and then we just become a part of that. We become a part of the just the noise, Mr. Smith. We become a part of the problem. Then the next person comes along and they say, oh, he hasn't done nothing, or she hasn't done nothing. How do we really roll up? And I'm not just talking about proverbially, right? How do we really roll up our sleeves?
Well, I say this. First, we have to bring awareness. We have to re-educate and re-transform and re-teach the community. The people that's in office and continue to win offices is because they are beholden to the funders that fund them. You know, a lot of unions, you know, and they control and manipulate the elected officials that's in office. So they don't represent the community. They represent the special interests that put them in office. If somebody give you $50,000, $30,000, $200,000, you don't think you owe them? You don't think that you're going to vote for them? You don't think that you're going to pass a piece of legislation that they can make their money back? You know, so that's the issue. And the issue is that they would put stuff on literature and mail the people and call them and have armies knocking on their door, lying to our community about things that they're not going to do, things that they're not going to represent. And it's all just a dog and pony show. It's just like selling a person on the auction block, you know. And going back to the challenge, I believe that the objections and things like that, I've been in politics for a while. I believe that, the objection process, that should take place. You should be able to challenge someone.
Absolutely.
But the problem is, how can you legally challenge someone, when the judges or the hearing officers are all put in there by the establishment?
That's it.
So that's just like going to work and you're a cashier and the gas station owner, my phone went. So I mean, of course, the employee, the person that works the job is not going to go against the boss.
No.
So the unions own them, so that's the issue.
Yeah, and that is the issue. And that's what I mean by the application. When you have these boards that the chair of the board is on or part of the party. For instance, my objection. Okay, so I can speak for my objection. So my objection, the chair is the mayor who circulated petitions for the opponent, right? He circulated petitions for the opponent. Now him and his party are on. They're the chair. They're the jury for my objection hearing, and then you have the village attorney, right? The village attorney who essentially, I don't care. Trustee Matt, you can attest to this. The village attorney generally works for the mayor. It doesn't work for the board, right? So now you have the attorney who actually sits up there kind of giving them instruction. The whole process is the whole application. I'm going to go back there. And again, I think that it's not the problem with the challenges, it's the perversion, the ethical dilemmas that those individuals, it's not a fair system. In every election, it's the same thing, right? We hear about people that are thrown off of the ballots. I remember when the sheriff, he challenged one young lady because her last name, she was married. I mean, what the hell, but then the board is his cronies, right? Then you have another young lady who was challenged. She's a sheriff. She is an FBI. Her certificate, they're gonna say that she wasn't a law enforcement. It's like, how can anybody reasonably, and I remember, Mr. Smith, and I'm all over the place, so bear with me, but I remember one of these years when Obama came out and he did a speech and he said, grab a clipboard and get involved. I felt so inspired, right? And he was like, hey, if you want to be a product, do this. But is that naive? Right?
No.
Technically, it's more than just grabbing a clipboard.
Well, I can't speak for Obama, but I can say what I took from that is getting involved. And that's what we should do. And that's what we should do, get involved. But here's the problem with the issues in regards to challenges and addressing the things that you just stated. Me, myself, the mayor is the mayor 24 hours a day.
Yes.
So when he went out and circulated petitions, he broke the law. Mm-hmm. He broke the law. He cannot be on getting work. He's the mayor. He's not a trustee, or he's not, there's no certain hours that he's working and he's not. He's the mayor 24 hours a day. And that's the problem. And then what happens in these cases of us challenging the system, we run out of money. We run out of resources. We run out of funding. Because if it ever makes it to the Supreme Court, then it'd be overruled.
Yeah. Yeah, it just seems like, and that's what I mean. So he circulated petitions. The people that are running under his party, because we are partisan out here in the suburbs. So they're running under his party. He circulated petitions. His people now are challenging the opponent. He's the chair of the board. This just makes absolutely no sense. He should, in my opinion, he should not have chaired it. He should just be like, okay, I'm not going to, since I circulated petitions for my my candidates, these people that are challenging me are running under my umbrella, you would think that he would create some arm's length, right? But it seems like in all of these communities, and it's not just mine, so for the record, it's not just my community. It seems like the application, so the system was put in place to allow everybody to have a fair chance to run for office. And I understand that we have to have some templates in place, you know, so that everybody just don't run amok. But now it's just on autopilot, and that's the concern. So then the person who's challenging my petitions, like I said, he's an owner of a business. He's an owner of a business, and he put his name on the challenge. He's upset because I didn't agree to giving the business an extension on their loan. It's just so many things that stinks to high heaven, right? And again, as an incumbent, I'm an incumbent. I understand that there's certain things that come with, you know, when you got a right to challenge me. I don't even take it personal. I sit up there. I'm so unaffected by it that it's just whatever. Because at this particular point, there's no fairness in these particular elections at a local level. If anything, I would have to find that fairness if I were to pursue it down the line. But I can see how somebody like yourself, Mr. Smith, who's running for office for the first time or the second time or whatever, you're not a trustee, right? You're not an alderman. You're not already in the seat. And you're trying to get involved because you want to do something good in your neighborhood. And there's so many layers. I mean, there are so many unknowns. Like there's unknowns for me, Mr. Smith, but there are so many unknowns for you, right? Because at least I'm at the table. I'm at the table and I don't know what's happening. I could not imagine not being at the table and expecting the process to be fair. Trustee Matz, what do you think of that?
Well, even though he's not at the table, he still have to be engaged. You have to keep up with current events. You have to keep up with what's going on in that particular ward. Also, you have to keep up with what's going on in the city council level because it still affects that ward. So it doesn't negate the fact that he's not sitting in that seat. He still have to do his homework if he's actually going to do good for the 20th ward.
Yes. Yeah. And you know what? I wish, I always say this every year, Cassandra, you've heard me say this, that we need to organize, trustees, aldermen, we all need to organize because all of us know that the system is one of these things where, I mean, Mr. Smith, are you waiting for me to start? You know what I'm saying? Am I waiting for you to start a movement where we honestly challenge how this process is so that even if it isn't you, right? We may not, I always tell people that you should get on the school board. If you just had a brand new baby, you should run for the school board or the library board. So that way, when your kid gets up to a certain age, you've already built the school that you kind of want your kid to attend. So I always tell people, don't wait till your kid's already in the school. It's too late.
But see, Trustee, that's a small difference between you and I. I don't encourage people just to be on something, because that's how a lot of people get controlled and manipulated and just be in the way and mess things up because they're not leaders. So don't stand in the place of a leader, because you can probably be taking the place of a person that really know how to manage. Because being a trustee or a alderman or a mayor, you're basically just managing, and you're creating law. And a lot of people, if you ain't never had a job before, you ain't never been over anything, control anything. I mean, are you good in managing? You never deal with finance. Your finances is all messed up. Should I put you over the budget? I'm just saying.
But to your point, I totally get that. But I also have to say that it's difficult already to get anybody to even, a lot of us, with the pedigree to be in these particular type of leadership roles, we go for the job, right? because these jobs really, and honestly, the amount of time that they require, they really just don't pay enough, and considering the amount of time that it requires to do that. So many of us with those leadership traits, right? We go for corporate America. My point is that, you know, some of these smaller offices, like school board, don't get me wrong, schools have some of the largest budgets, and libraries have some of the smallest budget. My point is, you don't wait until you're going to be affected by that change immediately. If you start early on, you know, while your kids are infants before they even start school, then you can kind of start shaping the future. You get what I'm saying? My point is, we have to start early in order to shape the future. And some of these things that we are being affected by, with some of these frivolous objections and so on and so forth, we may not benefit from, Mr. Smith. That's my point. We may not benefit from it, but if we start it today, right, and if we start working towards creating a much more comprehensive, balanced system, although we may not benefit from it, right? So we need to start it, right? And so I'm saying, using this example, that start it now. I may not get any relief from some of these frivolous objections and this whole perversion of this political process of fairness. I may not get any relief right now, but I think that knowing what we know, right? Seeing what we've seen, being candidates, being in these particular respective seats, that we have enough insight that we can change how other people may encounter objections in the future. And I think that we, as opposed to us, we do this every election cycle. People sit around, we complain about it. You know, I looked at the young lady, Ruffin, who ran for sheriff. She complained about it. But then where are we, right? Like, where are these people at? You know, and the same thing kind of happens again, right? And I'm just saying that at some particular point, when does the madness end? Do we just, every election cycle, we have these conversations, and then we just forget about
Brother Adam, what I would like to say is, you know, you brought up Ruffin and other people that had a desire to run for public office and probably had great intentions, you know, and the system worked against them to make sure that they could not represent the people that they wanted to, because the system is rigged and corrupt. In a case like that, you know, where are the supporters, the people, the like-minded people, the community? Why ain't they raising up?
Well, you know what, and so that's Mr. Smith, and I hate to use this fictitious movie, but I talked about this yesterday, right? I remember looking at the Django. Okay, I'm gonna go there. Okay, I remember that episode, Mr. Smith. I mean, if you watched that movie, you probably remember this episode. There was an episode where the white man asked another one, "Well, why don't they just rise up?" Do you remember that scene?
Yeah.
And to me, I don't know how you felt when you heard that, but I know how I felt. And that was a very good question, in my opinion. At what point do we rise up?
Exactly.
At what point, Trustee Metz, at what point do we say enough of this and we act on trying to overturn? I know you and we work together on trying to get the flat tax. At what point, we're rolling up our sleeves, but at what point do we roll up our sleeves to make this system fair and equitable for other candidates that may be coming after us?
So we're in pods. People rise up all the time. You got a Maze Jackson that run up the hill all the time, with people rah-rahing him run up the hill, and he looked behind and they still down at the bottom of the hill. They're not running up the hill with him. You know, you just have too many people who want to complain, but they don't want to put in the sweat equity. They don't want to get uncomfortable. As long as it's not knocking at their door, they see it across the street, but it's not knocking at my door. So I'm good. I'm just going to throw a rock over there, but I'm not going to actually go over there with the boulder. So you just have a lot of people that are out here just rah-rahing, but they don't want to get their hands dirty. and they want to gaslight you and pump you up to run up the hill, but there's no backup. There's no cavalry. What do we do about that?
Yeah, well, let me just tell you, if you don't know, and I'm not Paul Revere, but the red coats are coming, okay? And you've heard it here first, okay? The red coats are coming, the red coats are coming. At some particular point, people are gonna take heed. Somebody's gonna have to take some steps to try to overturn some of these particular things. If you don't know what the red coats are coming, don't let me date myself in my American history classes. Revere warned us, right? And nobody listened to him then. Every election cycle, there's always these warning signs and nobody listens. That's my point. At some particular point, I'm looking at what's happening in Joliet. I don't know if you looked at this fellow. Now, what drives me crazy about Joliet, I don't know if you've seen this article. The guy only needed 25 signatures. This is the other problem with this process, Trustee Matz. I needed, in my respective area, and Mr. Smith, you can tell me how many signatures you needed in yours. But in my respective area, running as a new party, because I ran as a slate, so I ran as a new party, I needed 70 signatures. It's no big deal, right? It's 70 signatures. Many of these communities, like the people that are running for office under the established party, they only needed 25 signatures. They needed 25 signatures. Is there a problem with that? And in Joliet, the person was challenged. He only needed 25 signatures. He was still one short. You couldn't even make this stuff up.
That goes to show the complacency that the residents have. The signatures you need is predicated on how many votes were cast. That's a travesty.
Signatures in Joliet to get on the board.
Yep.
It's insulting. It's insulting to the voters, because the reality is, if you only need 25, Mr. Smith, you just said everybody, you don't want everybody to run. Well, when it's only 25 signatures, Mr. Smith, everybody can run, right? Because it's 25 signatures that you need in order to get on the ballot.
Well, I'll say this. There are several, thoughts that goes to my mind and questions. If a person needed 25 signatures, one, and he didn't get on the ballot, one was this his first time? Was he operating alone? Did he have the experience or the information on how to get signatures and where to get signatures? So it's just not just waking up saying, okay, I'm going to be a legislator, or elected official. It's about, learning, then getting out there and having people to believe in you, to join forces with you.
Well, that's what it's technically supposed to be about. But when I see numbers like 25, is it really about? And it's 25 for established parties. So if you run as a Democrat or you run as whatever that party that won, then your minimum drops. You need 0.005% instead of 5% of the signatures. So in that case, I mean, and then there should be a minimum. I think that in a town where you got 10,000 people, there should be a minimum of 50 signatures. I don't care if it is 0.005. You should be required to get at least 50 signatures. You ran for the school board and you ran for the library board, you need at least 50 signatures. But to legislate in some of these local communities, you really only need 25 signatures if you're running under the established party's umbrella. And does that continue the cycle of people just feeling like their voices aren't being heard? Why do I need to talk to the majority of the public, Mr. Smith, when I only need 25? I can get all those right here on my block.
But to be a good, representative, you still need to, even if you have to get one signature, you still need to go out and meet the people and talk to them. You need to go get the issues. How are you going to represent a house when you've never been inside of it, when you don't know what it looked like?
I agree. But is it the system? I mean, should we be more concerned with the system, or are we placing that on the way the system is designed, or is that the candidate's fault?
Well, I would say that we I believe on this phone agree that the system is corrupt and crooked. That's why, when I win, the first piece of legislation that I'm going to push and lobby for is that superintendent of the police department be elected and not appointed. If in Cook County, if the sheriff if it is elected and not appointed, why can't the superintendent of Chicago Police Department be elected? That means that he got to go out there and talk to the people and see the communities, and they'll know him, and he'll know the issues in the communities instead of just coming being appointed and don't even know where the block's at.
But okay, so that's interesting. You say that. Does that, in the event that the chief is not executing or performing his job, just like an elected official, it's, the election is in many ways is the only way to rid yourself of that bad person. Would that make it? Go ahead.
Well, the thing about it is, you have a superintendent that, we're breaking every record with crime and things are going on, and he's still working. So, I mean, at least you have a end date looking, saying, okay, we can mobilize, organize, and get him out of there and get somebody else. But in this case, he could be, he could be an FA what the mayor tell him.
Okay. And that's interesting. So what do you think? I mean, what is your plan for crime? And listen, I'm a candidate. I'm a candidate just like you. And so don't hesitate to ask me any kind of question that you want. What is your plan for addressing some of the crime that's in the city? And it seems to be now much more widespread. It seems to be affecting areas that once seemed to be much more insulated or insular. What is the strategy for some of these challenges?
All right, I deal with that. But I was in a meeting, and most of the time when I'm in a meeting, I don't mean to offend anybody, but I'm held accountable. Once a person asks me a question, I'm held accountable to give them the information that I have. And I believe that when it comes down to crime, we need to jobs, education. Our education system is a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say CTU. People are afraid to say these words because they know they're raised up against them and they'll never be elected. People like them, they got millions of dollars to give to candidates, but there's no books in the classroom. There's no laptops in the classroom. But they'll get candidates $200,000, $1 million, $2 million. That's unfair. Me, myself, I would, if I was the mayor, I would make it so that if I could pass a piece of legislation, whether it's state or a city, and I get back to your question, I would make it so that no union can give more than $500. Other than that, going back to crime, you got to have jobs, you got to have good education, communities have to have families again. And most of these young people, they don't want to be out there. A lot of them homeless, a lot of them, like I explained when I grew up, I never felt love. I never thought that anybody cared about me, and when somebody showed me that they cared about me and they took up for me, I changed my life, and from going to robbing 3 people a day, living in Robert Taylor projects, I was a product of the projects. Just because I left the building, I never changed. Until a while, I had to be deprogrammed. So I took the same mentality when I left there to Job Corps, and I almost got kicked out of there. But they gave me a chance, and they kept giving me chances. Then from Job Corps, I became a welder. From welding, I went to the #1 deep sea diving school in the nation. Went to California, College of Oceaneering. I could fix anything underwater. So those are the things that I've done. And I can relate to these young men that's out there in the streets because they don't want to be out there. It's harder to be out there than to go and have a 9 to 5 and make good money and come home and groceries in the refrigerator. And hopefully you got a wife and kids, and you can watch TV, or most of them probably even can play their PlayStation. Out there, day to day, you got to worry about what you're going to eat, watching your back. It's terrible out there. I
Yeah.
took a young guy, he was out there shooting, gang banging, all of that. I took him under my wings. He was about 4 credits away from graduating. I put him back in school. He graduated. When he was in there, he had all A's and B's. Those are the type of kids that's out there. But we don't have anybody that care. Everybody is, they want it to be like it is, so they continue to do what they do. Yeah. Overlook us. So I would say education, trade schools, we got to hold the education system responsible and accountable. We're not doing that. We're not doing that because we figure they'll put up all this money and vote us out. Right. Well, if you're not going to speak up for the people, then you don't need to be in there no damn way. Yeah. And that's the problem. We got so many people that are not raising their voice, because they just go along to get along.
And that's, to your point, and I guess my criticism too is, there's just not enough leaders in leadership roles, right? There's too many people that are sitting in these positions, they're acting in these positions, almost sitting there as if they're leaders, but they have no leadership quality or traits. And then they're making decisions that they should not be making on our behalf. And I think that the bar needs to be set much, much higher for those that are seeking electoral office. But at the same time, I think that the system needs to be, the application of the process needs to be applied different. That's my issue with what's going on here. The other thing too is I wanted to talk about Mr. Smith, and I don't know if you guys have this issue, but one of the things that I wanted to bring up, and if you're just joining, welcome the TN Conversation. I'm having a very good candid conversation with candidate for alderman in Chicago, Mr. Andre Smith. He is a candidate running for the 20th ward in the city of Chicago. Mr. Smith, where is that at? You got the boundaries?
Well, you got Fuller Park, Washington Park, a piece of High Park, Kenwood, back of the yards, Inglewood, a piece of Inglewood, and I believe in Washington Park.
Okay, fantastic. So he's a candidate running for that office, and he's sharing with us what his agenda is once he acquires that seat. We also have Trustee Matt. Trustee Matt, are you running for office, correct?
Yes, sir. I am. I am running for trustee of Olympia Fields. Can't wait to get back in the seat and take my rightful spot.
Listen, now, this is interesting, Trustee Matt, because for me, this is what you do. Okay, I'm just gonna be honest. I don't see you. You should always be a trustee. You are. I don't know if Olympia Fields doesn't understand the value of what you bring to the table. And I'm not. Listen. Okay, I'm a fan. Okay, I'm a fan of Trustee Matt, right? And Mr. Smith, don't listen. Okay, we can all have our.
Don't worry about it. I'm a fan too.
I'm a fan, but I don't see, if I had a person like a Trustee Matt in the community, why I don't even know why you run it. They should. I almost said the bad word on here. They should just you see, okay? Because the reality is that's the type of champions that all communities need, and you are an example of that particular type of champion. And again, this is not just because I'm a fan, although I'm a fan. This is not just because I'm a fan. This is because if more champions, like I consider myself a champion for the village of Glenwood. That's what I am. I'm everything Glenwood, right? Right, wrong, or indifferent. You got a question and you need an answer, and it's in my community. I want to celebrate the Southland area. And I think that we should be doing this collectively because we are all in this together, Mr. Smith. But in Olympia Fields, Trustee Matt, I don't even know do you have anybody running against you? So I can tell you.
Well, I don't have anybody running against me per se. There are 3 seats and there are 7 candidates for the seat. All I need is 6 people to be running after me.
Yes. Well, I always tell people I don't have to be faster than that bear. I just need to be faster than that person next to that. So just keep that in mind. I always tell candidates that you are not running against any of the people, Mr. Smith. You're running for the seat on your ideas, and that should be more than enough. I've never ran, and this is what's so interesting. I've never run against a candidate. I've never ran against the mayor. I've never ran against anybody in my time. I've always run for the seat. And I just hope that people think that I'm qualified and competent to do that role. If you just welcome to Tea and Conversation, I am back. Happy New Year's to everyone. I hope you had a safe and happy holiday. I got a little bit of news. So I want to talk a little bit about the water bills. I don't know how the water bills are in your town, but water, if you know me, you know that water has always been something that I'm very passionate about. And I'm over the gamesmanship. I talked to one of the state representatives about creating consistency. And because Trustee Matt, I'm Mr. Smith, hopefully we can work together on something like this. But there needs to be much more. The consumer needs a consistent bill, right? How much is water in your respective area? Do you know how much you're being charged for water, Mr. Smith, per gallon, per 1,000 gallons?
No, I just get a bill every now and then, and it goes up and down.
And Trustee Master, how about you?
So on my water bill, I get a bill quarterly, and my water bill is about $130.
So $130. Do you know how many gallons you use?
I'm pretty sure I don't use a whole lot of water. It's really the sewage cost. It's not really the water bill. It's the sewage cost.
Well, but even there, okay. So that I'm glad you brought that up, because are there separate lines for sewage? How are they reading the sewage? See, this is the con. Right. This is the con that they play on us, right? They have sewage costs. Like, it's no way in the world that I used exactly 4,000 gallons of water, okay? Now, what are the chances, Mr. Smith, that I use this month exactly 4,000 gallons of water?
Well, I would say show me the pool.
Chances. So when I look at my current bill, and I paid this one so they can't screw me over. What are the chances of my last month water bill where I paid I used exactly 3,000 gallons of water? Like, every month I'm using an exact amount of water. Then you talk about the sewage cost, which is a scam. There's no meter that reads the amount of water that you're letting out of your house, right? So that's a fictitious number, right? Then you got some communities like mine where the trash is incorporated into the water bill. So there needs to be, and I've talked to some state reps about this, but there needs to be some sort of mandate where every community is responsible for at least identifying each month what you honestly are paying for in terms of water. We paid for the lines already. We pay for them every month in our taxes and the service maintenance agreements and so on and so forth. And then they're gaming us by making up the amount of water, making up the amount of gallons. Who would be the wiser if they took this next month? What I'm going to say? How do I even challenge them about the number of gallons I use?
Well, they're going to tell you that they estimate the bill.
But okay, so is the estimate and for consumer protections, is the estimate always higher or is it always lower?
It's always higher.
So if that's the case, last month I used, according to this bill, I used 3,000 gallons. They estimated another 1,000 gallons extra. That's a hell of an estimate, Mr. Smith.
You flushed the toilet too many times.
Listen, I'm gonna have to start collecting it. Trustee Matt, you may have to start collecting it in the bottle so you can see.
Start a compost.
Yeah, because and then what are they gonna do when we start using compost? Like how are they gonna get their money then? Again, there needs to be much more regulations in terms of the water because I feel like consumers are being gouged, not just here in Glenwood, but every community is finding ways to gouge their residents on water. This month, my water bill is 3,000 gallons. Next month is 4,000. Nobody's using an exact amount of water. Next month is probably be 5,000 gallons, right? I do know one thing, it's gonna be an even number.
Who are you getting your water from? Are you getting your water from Indiana, or are you getting your water from
So in Glenwood, the water comes from Indiana through Chicago Heights. So that's a whole nother story in which we definitely need to get some players on here about that, because everybody, Mr. Smith, is getting away from Chicago water, right? Everybody's getting away from your water because Rahm Emanuel stuck the screws to everybody when he was in office. And then the mayor of Hammond were added. And because Rahm Emanuel decided that he was going to get into the casino business, the mayor of Hammond says, well, since you want to get into the casino business, we're going to get into the water business and we're going to start stealing your customers. So now it's this back and forth in terms of the water rates, and that there's no regulations. And I don't even know how you would do regulations when our water comes from Indiana. So Indiana has their own state laws or what have you. Illinois has their own state laws. So because we're not interacting with the city of Chicago, and we're getting our water from Chicago Heights through Indiana, we probably wouldn't even, the regulations is out the window. But even if that's the case, when these municipalities are providing water for their residents, I do think that they should be required to identify how much you're being charged per 1,000 gallons. Trustee Master, you know how much you're being charged per 1,000? Mr. Smith, you know how much you're being charged per 1,000?
No.
Okay, so those are the areas I think are of opportunity, because if every community is charging whatever they want per 1,000, there should be some sort of indicator to tell you how much you're being charged. Trustee Master, you know how much do you?
Yeah, mine is 1188.
So you're using your water is 1188 per how many gallons?
3,000.
Per 3,000.
I'm looking.
It's
So
got to be
1188
per gallon.
Per gallon. So 1188 per gallon. My sewer rate is $7 per gallon, and my sewer usage fee is $31.30. So my water for the quarter was like, the water came to 156.58.
So just to make but Trustee Matter, I definitely would love to see your bill, because right now what it's saying for me, so we have stormwater. Stormwater is a $10 fee. Garbage is a $45 fee. We got administrative fee. We got a operating maintenance fee of $48. We got a res department for $13.20. So we got a bunch of different things that are on here. But I use, according to this bill, I use 4,000 gallons. My bill came to $118.38. Now, Trustee Matt, I have 3 people in the house. You use 5,000 gallons? Trustee Matz?
I'm just talking away and I'm on mute. That's a guesstimate, apparently. They are
so
guessing.
You, I don't know how many's in your household, okay? I don't know how many's in your household. But Trustee Matz, I know I have 3 in my household. I used 4,000 gallons this month. Last month, they said I used 3,000. I used 4,000 gallons this month, and I have 3 people in the house. You use 5,000 gallons, Trustee Matz?
Apparently, I must have a gaping
Mr.
hole
Smith,
somewhere.
you see where I'm going with this, right?
I must have a gaping hole somewhere, or my neighbor have their hose connected to my house and they're using the water when I'm not here.
Again, this is my concern, and I think that there needs to be much more attention paid about these water bills in these particular local communities, because I think that a lot of these local municipalities, one of the ways that they're cooking the books, and I'm sorry, I don't want to accuse anybody of anything wrong, but the reality is nothing makes sense, right? Nothing makes sense in terms of these water bills. And I really think that the consumer, this is where we were just talked about why the people don't rise up, Mr. Smith. This is one of the areas where the people need to rise up, because we're being overpriced, we're being overcharged this particular service. And I don't know why, but there's no oversight, and there's really nobody that we can actually challenge. If we brought a lawsuit, they would be insulated because of tort laws, because they're the government, right? But at what point do we as the people demand some sort of accountability about, and I think garbage should be separated from water bills. That's one of the things that I've advocated for. They come there, they turn your water off. They turn your water off in many instances, not really for the water. They turn it off for the garbage, because your bill really consists of garbage, you know? So they really are turning people's water off for garbage, not for water. And I think that we got to start looking at how we go about these water bills in the state of Illinois. In fact, I personally don't even think that you should have a water bill. Andre, don't get me started on that. But I think that water bills should be attached to the property, okay? They are attached to the property anyway. It should be a part of your tax structure. While we talking about the flat tax, Trustee Matt, the water bill should be something that you just pay automatically when you pay your taxes, right? You should never have a water bill and you own a property in the state of Illinois, or anywhere for that matter, okay? Water should be a right, not a choice. That's my thought.
You're absolutely right. They can't turn your water off is inhumane.
Absolutely. So the fact that and actually they would make more money if they just billed every house a certain percentage in their taxes every year. Every house pays $100 a year towards the water, right? They would essentially, more communities would make more money, right? Doing it that way, because you got places like Harvey, some places in the city where it's more blighted property, but the property is still owned, right? So now they would be collecting water even off of those homes where nobody's using water, because it would be made up in their tax structure. So I think that we got to start being a lot more creative about how we go about taxing people and what you honestly get for your taxes. But municipalities making up their own water bills, right? I mean, they're making them up. They're literally making them up. I guarantee you your number was an even number, Trustee Matt. You used 5,000 on the money, right?
Yes. It said I use 52,737.
Okay, so at least they gave you a number to throw you off. They didn't even play with me. They're just like, you used 3,000 this month. Last month you used 4,000. Next month it'll be 6,000. You know, then they'll get down. I just think they just give you an even number. They're at least giving you a fictitious number so that they throw you off the tracks. Hey, I don't know, but those are issues, Andre, that I hope that are issues that affect us and the quality of life for our residents and our communities all over the great state of Illinois. And I hope that over the next year, that we all start looking at ways that we can improve it. And this isn't about, listen, I don't even want to hear these people. You know what, I'm glad it's 8 o'clock. It's not a socialist agenda, right? Water is not a socialistic agenda. We live in one of the richest nations in the world. Water should be a right. It should not be a choice. And if you live in a house, I know that there's going to be some logistics. Well, if you live in a condo, if you live in a, I lived in a condo, stop playing. I lived in a condo. The water was built into the condo association fee. Now, I know that there's ways that they can do that. Now, if you are a business, yes, you should have to pay for water. But if you are a homeowner, water should be a part of your taxes. I pay almost $7,000 a year in taxes. You mean to tell me you can't throw in a $300 water? Come on, Andre, it stays with your house anyway.
Yeah.
So why isn't water just attached to the house? It should be a part of the tax structure. It would just alleviate a lot of the bullshit, and it alleviate a lot of the nonsense. Nobody would go without water because water is a part, and it should be owned by the local municipality as opposed to the Glenwood saying, well, we own the water, and you own shit. Using it as a resource to pay over salaries that are way too high. That's my thought. Hey, if you're just joining, welcome to Tea and Conversation. I'm not getting into this conversation about the socialists. These folks, I'm over them, okay? Andre, I want to thank you for coming on Tea and Conversation. You are welcome to come here anytime we're here every Monday at 7 o'clock. If you ever want to share any news or anything with us, we do have some reach. So our page, this thing goes out of the YouTube, and that's why I'm going back and forth with these crazy people up here on my other screen. But it goes to YouTube, it goes to Facebook, and then normally the conversation goes on even past tonight. So I do appreciate you and thank you for joining a Tea and Conversation. It's never that hard, right? It really gives the people an opportunity to just talk to you, learn about your platform, get to know people in their respective areas, because we are more connected than we even know, right? You may be over in Chicago, but listen, I'm over in Chicago a lot, right? And vice versa. You may need to come out here and play some golf and just get away and let your hair down, the little bit you got left. And so, I mean, so these communities are all connected, Andre.
Yeah.
So we got to start working collectively together. So good luck on I'm not going to say good luck. The last person told me good luck. I ended up divorced. Hard work for you, Mr. Smith. Trustee Matt, I'm pretty certain that I'm going to see you again, but always stop back in every Monday. We are here live on Tea and Conversation, so you're always welcome. Any last words, Mr. Smith?
Well, I just want to say thank you to, your audience, and thank you to Trustee Matt. I know both of you all would do well, and I just want to say that, I am glad and thankful to be a part of the change that our community needs.
Yes. And that's what it starts. And change is an action word, guys. I always tell people that, a lot of times, and I'm going to get off my proverbial soapbox in a minute, but change is an action word. A lot of times I had somebody to criticize me because I always say I'm a change manager. I'm saying that, Adam. You're a leader. Well, I am. I'm going to start shifting, because change is what I'm all about. But I am really technically a leader, even though my occupational title at many cases is change manager, right? But the reality is change is an action word. And we got to get to a point where we start putting action behind our words. We can get on these different things and we can start talking about them and all this other stuff. But next election, guess what we're going to be talking about next election? Well, the election, the objection process sucks.
Yeah.
At what point do we start taking some action? Trustee, any last words?
Once again, great show. Thank you, Andre Smith, for coming out, letting us know exactly what the 20th Ward need. And if we can be of further assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out and let us know what's next and keep us informed. And once again, I am running for Olympia Fields trustee. I can't wait to get back into that seat and do good for my community, which I love and been here for over 30 years. And thank you.
And you know what? You're going to do just fine. If I got to get out there with my waders on, we going to get that W for you over there in Olympia Fields, because we really, honestly, I don't know if anybody deserves to be a trustee. Trustee Matt, you definitely should be one. And they should be rolling out the damn red carpet, okay? Because you've done more for your community. I don't even know what to say, okay? In any event, until next Monday, guys, I want to wish each and every one of you guys a good night, okay?